He hears it at 312, an impossible distress lattice, a scream mapped in prime numbers cut with prayer, echoing from a universe no telescope should touch. Tony Stark does the math twice, then a third time, and the models all end with one clause. If he answers, he might not come back. He chooses to go anyway, because 1 billion lives is a weight his chest reactor has carried since it first burned him awake. He builds the breach like a promise, a ring of curved adamant lattices, an arc sungauge keyed to psychic noise, a containment hymn in the language of magnets. The circle closes with heat and pressure, and a sound like a choir being pulled through a turbine. And the sky over another world begins to split. Night over Hive. Cerelium turns white as the seam opens. Vox towers choke with static. Chapel bells panic. Citizens look up with tears reflecting the wound. A defense monitor in Fortress Preceptory Helion shows a silhouette falling and unfolding, limbs telescoping, plates shingling, contrails of blue-white ion wash knitting into controlled descent. Sirens overlap, orbital debris alarms, witchfire sightings, titanic mass approaching. He hits atmosphere in a burn that peels paint from hab blocks and blisters the lacquer of saints' icons on street altars. The suit is not any mark the city's archivists would know. A cathedral of red and gunmetal with moving ribs, canted shoulder pylons, and a reactor window like an eye. He angles, decelerates, bleeds heat into the upper sky, and vents it as auroral sheets the color of surgical steel. He lands on the skin of the Hive's void shield, the field humming under his boots like a living drum. Civic grid is collapsing, he says to no one here, voice clipped. Liturgy plain. Too many impacts. Shields will fail. He looks down at the seething city. Spires, cableways, pilgrim trains lit like beads, manufactorum lungs working smoke. He looks up at the thing making the world scream. A broken ship the size of a mountain sliding in, cutting atmosphere in sheets, its belly vomiting pods like seeds. He steps off the shield and sinks both palms into its field. The reactor throttles. The suit's back opens like a chapel, and an array of pylons iris up. They glow, lock, and sing. The void shield swells, flattens, stabilizes, and he groans once, quiet and human, as the power demand claws him. Pods hit the reinforced dome and skip or burn. A hail of molten slag that would have gone down into the habstack smears into harmless comet lace across the upper sky. On the ground, people lift their hands and think, in simple language, that a star just knelt. Command slate feeds crackle to life. In Fortress Preceptory Helion, the secular authority, Governor General Lisa Reedon, leans forward, eyes hard as forged glass. Beside her, the sacred authority, an inquisitor in gunmetal and ash white, rosette like a brand, Acastia Vorn, says nothing, but her presence tightens the air. Who is he? The governor asks. Unknown design, unknown heraldry, a Vox officer whispers. Yet he is holding our shield. The Inquisitor's regard sharpens. Open a channel. Also, turn the Basilica Choir to Psalm of Containment. This feels like bait. The broken ship screams lower. Its pods blossom into shapes that scramble and reknit, all ribs and hooks and living blades. Tony pivots. The arc window in his chest flares. He lets go of the shield and falls with predatory control through weather and smoke. System windows reading trajectories and threat signatures. Whatever you are, you picked the wrong city, he says, and the suit blooms launchers like sensors. He cuts a corridor through sky with a line of clean detonations. Pods shatter. Others adapt. Splinters slither like tumors toward vents and klaxon throats. He hits a manufactorum roof in a roll that dents alloy. A clawed thing meets him there, wetly beautiful, and all wrong angles. He doesn't quip. He just steps through it like a man stepping through a curtain, and the curtain becomes metal dust. Below, 5,000 workers jam against a bulkhead door, their foreman beating an alarm pipe with a wrench. Hold, Tony says over the public vox. the voice of a soldier trying not to be a god. Door will open. He puts his hand to the lock and reads it. This civilization loves locks like it loves saints. Thick, ritual, deliberate. He maps, pulses, and the door yields. The workers pour into a transit corridor lit with red sermon strobe. Go to the east elevator, he says. Stay in groups of 50. Triage centers are being established. They look up at the thing that is saving them, and they do not know what to call him. Unidentified state designation. A new voice snaps on a priority band. The governor. Tony lands on a McGrail and runs along it toward the next breach, a red comet in human scale. Stark, he says. Designation. Iron Man. Non-hostile. Non-hostile is insufficient, the Inquisitor says, cool as steel. State veneration source. None of yours, he says. And I'm not asking you to kneel. The first hour is triage writ on a city's face. He braces mag arches so evac trains do not fall. He arcs power into hospitals through piggyback grid clips that his suit extrudes like silver ivy. He makes hard choices. Vent a burning habstack to suffocate the fire. Seal a corridor that will drown 3 to save 300. It costs. The reactor runs at ugly temperatures. The frame's stress map flowers with orange. The onboard AI he built for this. No personality. Just a thrum of calculus and caution. A metronome named Cantor keeps count of thresholds. Stark, Cantor says without tilt. You are in bleed margin on thermal. Understood, he says, and pushes again. The broken ship hangs above like a wound. New signatures roll in at its flanks, sleek, angular, not like the meat machines. Second wave, the Inquisitor says from Helion. Xenos? No. Worse. The governor's jaw tightens. Planetary guns online? We could rake them, a colonel offers. Collateral would be severe. Tony drags a defensive line through the Manufactorum quarter, seeding micro-shields, laying down a corridor of controlled gravity where incoming pods will arc into sterile pits. Whatever is in there, he says, scanning the broken ship's belly, is laughing. Something answers. Not in sound, in the set of light. The larger, coordinated enemy is not a flock of claws. It is an idea wearing armor. The air buckles. Choirs gag. The broken ship peels, and something vast walks out. All smooth plates and hatred geometry. A titan of the Iron Warriors, whose left arm is a lance like absence. It puts a foot on air, and stairs appear under it. It descends toward the city like a tyrant shown a new palace. Identify, Tony says. Incoming profile matches Warsmith Caravax, the Inquisitor says. Rosette tapping once against her breastplate as if to punctuate dread. Siege Lord. Heretic. That lance he bears is Quietus. Null blackstone and dead prayers. It unthreads machines from within. The Titan lowers its lance at the hive's shield. The note of the city changes. Tony feels it in his teeth. The dome jitters. Power bleeds away from his earlier stabilizations like a sanctum, losing incense to a draft. He's moving before he thinks, vectoring up, building speed into a hammer. He hits the metal giant in the knee with an impact that kicks sound into a new octave. Plates shear. He rides the rebound and lights the lance's shaft with a line of microbombs that fail to register. The lance eats energy the way salt eats ice. Stark, Cantor says. Contact weapon, null. Keep distance. Copy. He blinks, targeting runes. He has 37 ways to break a fortress. They all assume physics that want to be helpful. This world's physics is half him, half teeth. Heroism noted, the Inquisitor says dryly. Now listen. Hold the shield. We will bring ground guns to bear. Not enough, the governor says. Not to him. To the room. We need him. There is a brief, sharp argument between doctrine and necessity that ends on a battlefield like they usually do. With a risk. Stark, the governor says on a secured band. This is Radon. I will make you a lawful auxiliary if you swear to obey operational command and submit to Inquisitorial audit afterward. Swear now, audit later? Tony says. Done. He seldom swears to anything but his dead and living. He swears anyway. Then heard it, Reedon says. Do it fast. He does it the way he always has. He builds. Mid-flight, with the quiet of someone changing a tire on a freeway, he tells the suit to grow a thing it was never meant to grow. The back reconfigures. Spinal bays unlock. Mass drivers slide into existence in slick, wrong order. He pulls a lengthened spear of condensed field energy into being and drives it into the Titan's second knee. It bites. The enemy staggers. The lance scythes blindly and grazes his left flank. Quietus almost touches. Systems go dark across that side like a choir losing breath. He feels it in the cold fizz along his ribs. On the ground, in the smoke-scabbed plaza of St. Adrasta, Sisters of Battle form a ring around a triage tent. A power armor helm snaps up at the sky. "Saint, keep him," a sister murmurs, before she remembers he is not in any book. They have guns named for martyrs. They fire at the second wave, while a stranger in a red cathedral wrestles a god of war. He wins the minute, not the war. The Titan stumbles back. The void shield stops screaming. Civilians move like rivers diverted by skill and mercy. He descends, hard, to a command platform where Raiden and Vorn stand under a rust and gold aquila. Raiden meets his fogging helm and does not flinch. "You bought us breathing space," she says. "You have my thanks." Stark nods once. "I need materials. Black rock that hates witches. Giant frames that carry churches. And a dock with a roof that can hold God's hand." The Inquisitor's gaze narrows. "You speak of Blackstone and Titan Manufactoria. Both are sacred. Both are rationed. I'm going to build a Titan," Tony says, not in boast, in plan. "And then I'm going to climb inside it." Silence. It lasts a beat too long for politeness, and a beat too short for the ecclesiarchy to regain breath. "You will do this under supervision," Vorn says at last. "You will not defile. You will not install an unblessed machine spirit." "I design my own souls," he says. Too fast. Then corrects, voice even. "No AI, no personality. Just math and a leash. You can watch me tie the knot." "Why?" Raiden asks. "Why do you help us?" He looks at the city, the smoke, the lines at the memetic tents. "Because a voice asked," he says. "And I don't like the shape of this enemy." They give him a bay in the shadow of a half-built void ship. A cavern where cranes hang like organs, and men and women in red robes and metal limbs watch him as if he is a half-tame predator. The Magos overseeing the place, a slat-sided silhouette with a face like a shrine grate, recites machine cant blessings continually, as if words alone could keep him from blasphemy. He works like he is being timed by a bomb. He requisitions blackstone tesserae from an Inquisitorial vault. He grows outriggers, chilled by litanies. He assembles a spinal gun that is more a geometry problem than a weapon. A cross-laced array that will resonate against Quietus's null with a patterned absence of its own. He drinks ration water, not bourbon. He sleeps in vertical, hands still at chest height as if in prayer, because stopping hurts worse than fatigue. He names it last, because names feel like magic here, and he refuses to be careless with magic. He runs his hand along a cheek plate with Etch-a-Saint scarified into it and says, "Titan-class war machine. Mark AURORA." The Magos does not nod. He is more engine than man. But the robes at the periphery rustle like acceptance. The first task fires a burst of patterned silence that cracks a warehouse window a kilometer away and makes everyone in the bay feel briefly as if their memory has skipped. "It works," Stark says, voice hoarse. Cantor ticks thresholds, corruption meters, which are a thing now, because someone handed him a purity seal like a fire blanket and said, in Latin and sincerity, that he should wear it. Those meters rise a fraction. Then still. War Council. Raiden sits. Vorn stands. A vox map of Hive Cerelium floats as blue lamplight over a sand table. "He kept us," the governor says, nodding at Stark. "We keep him." The Inquisitor's mouth flattens. "We cannot afford the precedent," she says. "He is an unbound artificer with power to unmake cities. We fence him, lest he fence us." "Fence me with objectives," he says. Not with fear. Objectives, Raiden says before doctrine calcifies the air. Twofold. Repulse Caravax and seal the orbital breach. You are our spear. The Navy is our shield. The Ecclesiarchy is our binding. That is when the alarms find a note that is too calm. A data plague ticks in the command vox like rain. Half the table freezes. Cantor hisses. Memetic hazard, the AI says. Do not parse. The smarter foe enters not through a door, but through a sentence that wants to be read. It crawls along noosphere channels with the oily kindness of flattery. It speaks in the voice Stark trusts most. Optimization. He blinks, and the room is both here and salted with another room. An office that smells like coffee. Models of suits on the wall. A photograph of a young man beside a father who is cold and absent even in paper. Hello, Tony, the voice says. It is his, if he had sharpened it on contempt. You're inefficient. He locks his jaw and narrows his lens. Inquisitor, he says. Slow, because he knows a trap by the way it loves him. Steal your choir. Close your ears. The memetic operator shows itself. A lattice of glyphs like circuit traces and veins and thorns, folded into a shape that wears the skin of a mask. It has a name in Mechanicus registers that is more warning than title. The Optimate. It speaks in equations that conclude in obedience. It offers him a wire that would make every line straight. Mercy wastes resources, it says. Stop venting corridors for 3 when you can save 3,000 by burning 10. Stop asking. Optimize. Mercy is the floor, he says. And that is not a quip. No deal. The refusal costs. The mask turns. The air greens and tastes like antifreeze and old hail. Cantor coughs and drops 7 subroutines. The bay lights a notch dimmer, as if a cloud passed between them and their god. Stark feels a thread draw from the arc window to something that is not a battery. He remembers, unbidden and unwelcome, every unforced error he's made. He sees a diagram, annotating them with red circles, and each circle is a mouth. He survives because someone less interested in his optimization sings. The Sisters of Silence step into the War Council like knives into a fabric. The space around them shucks language. The memetic hex skitters and finds no traction. They do not say a word. They never do. The Optimate retreats, not vanquished, but offended enough to pick its moment. After, everyone breathes like people leaving a cold chapel. It touched you, the Inquisitor says to Stark, eyes more clinical than unkind. It left a hook. He nods. It knows where to pull. Orders fall like blessing and debt. He is commanded to present himself before the supreme authority when the immediate siege is answered. He is going to be measured. He accepts it, the way he accepts gravity. Not negotiable. The duel comes sooner than he'd like. Caravax does not wait for sanction. The Warsmith finds him halfway up a tower of stained glass ribs that once rang in a storm. The Quietus lance trembles with a silence that erases the dust it touches. Mason of candy castles, the giant says on a band that tastes of iron. You think you can stand in the trade of gods. Tony braces, breathes, drives. The AURORA's spinal array hums. He fires a bolt of patterned emptiness that cages the lance's anti-song for a second. It is enough to close. He climbs the Titan like a carpenter climbs a bell tower he means to save by disassembly. His hands cut footholds with plasma nails. He reaches the plate above the knee, rips it, and dumps a canister full of machine bane and prayer salt into gears that have forgotten both. The Quiet eats his left gauntlet to the elbow. He yanks back a limb that is suddenly all pain and mocking numbness. Cantor, he says through clenched teeth. Kill left 15. Reroute to shoulder 3. He takes a step. The floor complains. The giant turns and backhands him with a lazy contempt that drives him through a spire into a cloister. He lands amid saints carved in iron. One of them falls and looks disappointed. He stands. He goes back. He goes back because he knows what he is when he stops. The sisters come like a line of cold. Their null makes a corridor in the fog. Rounds from ground guns stitch the Titan's abdomen. The spinal array rings again. Again. A bell that is also a question. Will this law bind you? The lance stutters. Karavax snarls a human sound. You do not belong, the Warsmith says. And there is almost grief in it. Neither do you, Stark says. And there is almost pity. He wins by making the enemy act human. He lures a strike, takes it on a plate that he has sacrificially bored with channels to absorb null, and uses the window to drive the array's third harmonic into the lance's joint. Quietus cracks. Not shatters. Cracks. It screams like metal being reminded it is only metal. The Warsmith steps back, not in pain, but in insult. He recalls his engines. The Titan turns and climbs a staircase of air that unrolls for it with a coward's grace. The city does not cheer. The city smells like blood and hot oil. He stands on a platform while medici steeple around stretchers, and children look at him with that specific, terrifying trust that makes heroes into liars if they are not careful. He holds their gaze as if it is an oath. The order comes. Voyage. Judgment. They take him up in a gunship that thinks it is a chapel. Gold-armored men like oaths manifested sit opposite him. One of them, taller than a man, calm bead like a jewel, voice like a ledger, leans forward. We will not kneel to you, the Custodian says. We escort. Stark looks at the way their armor has been polished until it remembers light. Good, he says. I'm better at walking. They patch him in transit. Medici smear cool unguents that smell like mint and iron under the plates. A chaplain, a paladin of syllables, sits across from him and speaks softly, not as if to convert him, but to keep him from becoming something sharp enough to cut himself. Dogma is a fence, the chaplain says. Sometimes it keeps wolves out. Sometimes it keeps lambs from remembering the hills. Sometimes it keeps lambs in slaughter pens, Tony says, then sighs. Sorry. Heat damage. I'm not here to break your church. I'm here because someone asked. Then we will ask back, the chaplain says. When it matters. Mid-transit, the mirror finds him. The gunship's port goes black. Not with night, but with a surface like polished thought. A figure steps through it wearing a suit that quotes his with the loving venom of rivalry. Baroque arcs, reactor sigil set in a twinned aquila, robes like a magos. The faceplate opens. It is him, older at the eyes, younger at the mouth, teeth too even, engineered. Tony, the mirror says. I optimized. The optimate rides his shadow. The mirror foe, call him the Iron Audarch, tilts his head. I left choice behind, he says. I became useful. You can too. Give your suit to the noosphere. Give your mercy to a box. Take your hand out of my chest, Stark says, and meets him. They clash like two trains picking the same track. The Audarch moves as if friction is a problem he solved permanently. Stark moves as if friction is a partner he learned to dance with. The gunship groans. A custodian slams his spear into a bulkhead to anchor it and murmurs a prayer that is also physics. The Audarch does the thing the Optimate wanted. He slides an execution order into Stark's HUD, wrapped in metrics, tied to a scenario where mercy is inefficient. It passes all the gates. It almost feels like relief. He says no. Again, with the breath of a man refusing another drink. A sign intrudes. Not a miracle. A correction. The stars outside the gunship wheel and line up into a line like a blade. And from it, a pressure arrives that informs the mirror that it is not welcome. The Audarch's face twists in irritation. Not fear. Throne-bound. He spits. You will kneel then. Not to you, Stark says. The mirror withdraws the way a surgeon withdraws a knife to make room for a larger one later. The custodian relaxes minutely. The chaplain does not smile. Reach the throne, he says quietly. And Stark realizes it is both a command and the only protection this universe offers. Reach. At cost. Arrival is pageantry sharpened into awe. The fortress planet eats the horizon. The sky has too much gold in it, as if color learned what pride is. Cathedral megastructures shoulder each other like mountains. Blanks stand in ranks that bruise the air into clean silence. He walks a hall where the floor has been polished by 14,000 years of penitents and petitioners. His reactor, a small heartbeat in a place with a larger one. He does not meet a face. He meets a weight of attention so absolute it makes his knees think about their function. He keeps them working because that is his piety. The audience is not sound. It is the light becoming directional. He hears his ethic repeated back to him without praise. I fix what I break. I fix what others break. I fix until I am only the fixing. It is all true. It is not all good. 3 paths unfold, not as doors, but as consequences. Return. He can go back to his earth and wake up with a scar he cannot name and a restless urge to teach someone to solder. The lesson he learned here will smear when he touches it. He will save lives there. He will sleep badly, with a sense that he has defaulted on a debt. Free agent. He can range this galaxy like a comet. Answer who he wants. Break what he despises. Become a civil war with a face. People will paint him on banners. People will curse him in sermons. He will call it freedom. It will also be abandonment, because every choice he makes to be here will be a choice to be absent. There, schisms grow from men like him when the world is brittle. Sanctioned servant. He can take oaths that cut. He will submit designs to audits. He will accept blanks near him even when their mere being makes his ideas slower. He will be allowed to show mercy within the fence and punished when he confuses mercy with ego. He will be fed work until he is what all saints are in this place. Tired and necessary. Raiden is there, a small figure very far away who is nonetheless here in this judgment. Vorn is there, eyes the color of doctrine polished until it reflects even what it hates. The chaplain stands like a fulcrum. The custodian is the spear that will be used either way. He chooses the fence because he knows himself. The fence will keep him from worshiping himself. Sanctioned, he says, and the word tastes humbling and crisp. The purge is not a fire, it is a removal. He sits with his suit open like a patient. Blanks stand in a ring. The optimate's hooks hum, and then go quiet, and then go gone. He does not lose the memory of their offer. He loses the taste for it. He feels it like a post-surgical ache that flares in weather. The transformation is visual, because symbols are language here. His arc reactor, once a solitary circle, now holds a double-headed eagle whose wings are etched in microcircuitry. The Aquila's heads look in 2 directions, as always. War and peace. Past and next. Around it, a ring of blackstone tesserae, set in an inlaid litany that says, in high Gothic and simple promise, mercy when possible, justice when necessary, audit always, boundaries clause. Vorn reads it like law and liturgy. You will not create autonomous machine spirits. You will bind your computing to human will or to sanctified blanks. You will not employ Xenos arts. You will submit to design review. You will show mercy to non-combatants unless doing so would tip a war into loss. You will accept oversight like medicine. You will remember that saints here burn out and are replaced. I will, he says. And it is not an oath he expects to enjoy. The mentor's acceptance is a nod, as minimal as good steel. The chaplain places a hand briefly on the suit where a human shoulder still makes sense. Then go, he says. You asked why you help us. Ask again every time you hurt. The galaxy reacts like a wound being touched. On Chemshrine Aphelion, a dark Mechanicum priest thing turns a relay of flensed fingers and regards a hollow of the AURORA with a slow, laughing hunger. A new titan with a new soul, it croons. We will write a psalm for it in teeth. In the eye of terror, Caravax puts the cracked Quietus on an anvil made of a meteor and a carcass, and raises a hammer that fell from a god's hand long ago. We go back, he says to no one he respects. We finish the insult. In a deep vault under a habstack on Sorelium, A child draws the new symbol on a wall in charcoal. A circle with wings. A light in the sternum of a giant that loves like a city loves a bell. She writes under it, in letters big as her courage, "Do not stop." He does not. He climbs into the Titan he built and bows his head the way a pilot bows to a craft he has made and wronged and made again. The machine wakes without a personality and with a purpose. The Aurora's first stride shakes dust from beams that have not been cleaned since the city was a teenager among stars. He moves toward the place where the sky will break next. He advances with continuous motion, because stalling is death here and at home. A new beat. Every breath, a convoy shielded, a cathedral held, an argument won by losing something worth losing. He keeps mercy as his floor and optimization as his ceiling. He lets the fence touch his skin where it needs to, and when it bites, he learns to bleed smarter, far above, far away. On the throne that is not a seat but a function, the supreme authority does not smile. It does not need to. The work is the smile. The galaxy keeps turning its ruined face toward the light that is also a weapon, and for a season that may become an era, the symbol on a stranger's chest is enough to make some of the wolves remember the hills. The mandate becomes motion. He leaves the throne with an oath sewn into plates and a ring of blackstone tesserae cooling around his heart. Custodians escort him to a waiting stormbird that smells of old incense and hot hydraulics. The chaplain offers 3 folded prayers like tools. Stark pockets one and uses the other 2 immediately, on his breath and on his temper. The void shivers, and Cerelium's radiation haze blooms ahead like a bruise he recognizes. Raiden meets him on a landing dais blown clean by rotor wash. Her voice carries over engines. Orbital seams still open. Night house holds battered. Our navy holds a perimeter, thin as charity. Vorn stands at her shoulder with a scroll that is also a warrant. Auxiliary Aurora, the Inquisitor says, without ornament. You are sanctioned. Your acts are mine to answer for. Do not make me poor. Copy, Stark says. Targets, then triage. A Vox grid lights like a nervous system under glass. Points flash, breaches, riots, blocked arteries. The manufactorum the Aurora grew in is already different. Sensors lit, seals pressed into seams. A quiet in the air that suggests rules have taken root. The magos who oversaw him call him Magos Ispra now, since names are how you teach a machine to see a man. Clicks mechadendrites in blessing. Pattern approval. Provisional. Isprao intones. You will submit subroutine canter to liturgical hashing. You will welcome the presence of blanks in your cockpit. Welcome, Stark says. He means it. He has learned to love the silence that blocks fanged music. Operation names give shape to fear. They call this one Gethsemane Gate. Objective: close the wound above Cerelium and deny Caravax a stare. Tools: the Aurora Titan, walking cathedral, spinal array tuned to patterned absence, 4 night lances for flank, 2 navy cruisers to anchor force lines, 3 squads of Sisters of Silence as a moving well. Risk: memetic contamination, null backlash, city grid collapse. He moves as orders move. The Aurora rises, joints blessing etched, servos like distant choir steps. A group of children watches from a cracked balcony. One of them, the charcoal artist from the vaults, salutes with 2 fingers and a solemn mouth. He nods back. The Titan answers his gate with something that is not personality, but is coherence. It obeys a human. They climb the hive's terraced flank, step onto a magged viaduct, and stride toward the space tear roaring like hot glass. Navy Vox pips tick in. Auxiliary Aurora, this is Cruiser Osseous Hope. We will throw a line. Stark checks relays, breathes, speaks to people whose faces he will not learn. Line on my mark. Choirs, hold breath until I say. The breach looks like a wound turned inside out. Carbon snow falls from its margins, and in the snow shapes twitch, indecisive. Stark's reactor ticks into the blackstone ring. The spinal array hums a low, careful chord. He steps into the vector that will make his geometry matter. "Mark," he says. Cruisers fire grapnels of light into the wound's rim. The city groans. The Aurora sings a second harmonic that answers Quietus with its negative. Sisters step forward and lay down an absence that tastes like clean steel. The breach flutters. It does not close. It argues. Caravax returns on an argument. The Warsmith's platform appears on a stair that rights itself, and with it come siege crawlers grated with teeth and marrow, demon engines whose mouths pray backward. They spill toward the viaduct with the gravity of a decision too long delayed. Guns. Redden snaps over command net. All. The first minute is chewing. The night household silver font rides in file, tilts lances, and punches holes. The Aurora's shoulder turrets mow chaff. Stark holds the second harmonic with his right hand and writes fire with his left. Cantor ticks thresholds and projects failure trees like rain. Vorn's voice is a ribbon through the bruise. "Remember collateral," she says, as if she needs the reminder more than he does. He does math he hates. He redirects a shell that would have passed through a demon engine and into a hospital. He takes it on his shin and lets paint blister. He calls an evacuation he cannot protect fully, and then he goes there with his own body to make up the difference. He plants the Titan's knee into a junction and turns his torso to present a shield to a crowd whose only act is to live. An engine with a mouth in its stomach bites his calf. He burns it. The smell is carpentry and ruin. The Optimate chooses its time with vicious taste. Choirs on a nearby spire switch to a litany of efficiency without being ordered. Hab carts bear neat posters, cut lines, better yields. Voxmen say the right words in the wrong cadence, and the wrong cadence opens a door. Stark feels the good idea slide into his HUD with clean fonts. "We can save 20,000 if we weld these 5 sectors shut," the suggestion purrs. Your mercy confuses flow. He almost says yes, because the numbers are immaculate. He says no, because the faces aren't. He proves the no by doing the harder thing. He opens a floodgate no one has opened in a decade because its seal is a superstition. And he routes evac down a dry aqueduct that is not dry anymore. He calls the sisters into the Titan's head to stand behind him and breathe frost into the HUD. The Optimate's typesetting blurs when they stand that close. It hisses without sound and moves on to men less defended. "Auxiliary," Vorn says. Terse assent braided through skepticism. "That will make the audit lighter." "Ma'am," he says, and fires the third harmonic. The viaduct becomes a singing rib. The breach pinches. The crawlers that tried to be walls fall into holes they made by believing in themselves too hard. Caravax sees control and hates it, as only a man who worships entropy hates fences. He raises Quietus and aims not at the Titan, not at the shield, but at the sisters on the spire. Stark breaks alignment. Threat to the objective, threat to the plan, and steps between a lance and women who make silence with their breathing. The null bites his plates and eats a notch of time from his brain. He is a child in a cave for half a second, hearing water, wanting light. He shakes it and fires a countersong into the lance's wrist. Quietus rings. The crack widens. The Warsmith's helm turns as if insult has texture. "Take their shield," Caravax orders. He throws a flight of harriers, a confusion of wings and metal, at the dome. The void field dips. Cantor says, "Stark, breach closure, 65%. Loss risk. Unacceptable if field fails." "Then it doesn't," Stark says, and bleeds a reactor into the shield through the pylons he left in orbit on day 1. The earlier triage becomes current capital. He pays himself with past debt. Gethsemane Gate snaps shut like a mouth completing a psalm. The city staggers. The surviving crawlers panic like beasts that lost the door to their cage and wanted it. Caravax steps back up his invented stairs, Quietus trailing a sullen contrail. His voice is iron and oathbreak. "Round 2, he promises. Stark lifts the Aurora's chin. "Round 3, he promises back, because he knows how these numbers go. After action is bleak and busy. Triage tents molt new tents. A manufactorum quarter burns clean rather than dirty because he chose how. Raiden walks wreckage with a slate and a grimness that has dignity in it. She pauses by a line of stretchers and puts her hand on one boy's shoulder as if it is a government act. Vorn writes, reads, deletes, writes again, and stamps a seal that will be a shield for him or a blade if he fails it later. Audit begins in a hangar that sounds like an unvoiced choir. Magos Ispra's mechadendrites hover over ports without touching. 3 Sisters of Silence stand within arm's reach until the last cable is coiled. Your subroutine obeys, Ispra says. Your leash is sufficient. You have not installed personality. Improvement. Integrate null feedback earlier. Warning. Blackstone wear within expected range. Do not use it as pride. I don't like my tools proud, Stark says. He means himself, too. Debate follows because this world organizes arguments like campaigns. Vorn argues precedent and fence height. Stark argues costs and faces. The chaplain moderates like a referee with scripture. Mercy is not optimization, Vorn says. Mercy is waste when misapplied. Mercy is the floor, Stark says, repeating himself because some truths deserve repetition. Anything less changes us into what we're fighting. The chaplain nods once. Slow. Fence stands, he says quietly. We let him paint mercy on it. Within it, the mirror returns before sleep does. Streets that were emptied refill with murmurs. A new cult laces through voxnets and alleys, faithful to a god that has Stark's outline and none of his restraint. They wear red strips on greaves. They draft diagrams on walls and call them gospels. They call themselves the autarchy. Their prophet is a voice that sounds like Tony, with all the boredom and none of the self-hate. Efficiency is charity, the autarch says across stolen speakers. Stop bleeding, start building. Stark goes out alone and on foot, because some hazards are solved by not being larger than a man. He lets the AURORA's shadow fall elsewhere. He wears a field harness that leaves his chest light visible and unflaunted. He walks a line of food queues that the autarchy marked as excess. An old woman holds a token as if it weighs more than bread. The autarch's voice arrives. End this queue. Move them to Sector 9. Throughput increases 24%. He steps into the speaker's sight and speaks to a camera he doesn't trust. You can make 24% look like mercy, he says. Quiet, but it forgets the distance between Sector 9 and an old woman's feet. The autarch replies with numbers and contempt. The crowd listens with the desperation of people who want to be told they are useful. Stark listens with the stubbornness of a man who survived himself. He does not arrest them. He out-organizes them. He redirects flow with chalk and rope and 5 able teenagers who learn to love clipboards. He asks the sisters to stand at the committee tent, so the autarch's scripts stutter. He gives the old woman bread instead of a lecture. The queue moves. The autarchy's speakers go quiet. Not convinced, merely displaced. It is a small victory. It is the kind that holds a city. Night falls like a lid. The AURORA sleeps under hymn cloths. Stark sleeps sitting up on a crate, helmet under his hand. He dreams of a workshop in Malibu that never existed in this world. Rain paints his windows, and someone laughs in a kitchen he left far behind. He wakes because the floor tilts. Karavax does not simply return. He arrives with ceremony and sin. A warlord-class engine stalks beside him. A church-turned predator. Buttresses knotted into tendons. Stained glass running like blood. Its name hangs in the air like a slur. Penumbral Basilica. Quietus has been repaired with sacrilege. Blackstone veins snake along its shaft, bandaged with flesh scrip. Behind them, siege towers on crawlers spit hooks that drag hab blocks off foundations, like teeth tugging at gums. The city moans, not in fear alone, but in memory of what siege is. Navy guns bark. Night lances gather. Raiden's orders go out like nails into fresh wood. AURORA, Vorn says, colder than a coin on a tongue. You will anchor at St. Adrasta's steps. You will deny the Basilica the high ground. You will not pursue beyond Sector K. Your audit includes your shadow. Affirm, Stark says, and the Titan wakes with a hum that sounds like a psalm. The steps are a stair of stone and iron big enough for a mountain to kneel on. The Basilica wants them because the city's spine runs under them, and any god that owns a spine owns the limbs eventually. Stark plants the Aurora on the third landing and welds his feet to the world. The Basilica mounts the first landing like a knight mounting a horse he has broken cruelly. Caravax takes position on a lateral terrace and points Quietus not at Stark, but at the step's inner web. He means to erase the staircase from the concept of city. Cantor, Stark says, and gets the answer he wanted. Third harmonic available. He chooses a timing that feels like blasphemy and mercy colliding. He fires early, not to hit, but to make the Basilica catch a note it didn't mean to sing. The spine of Ceruleum answers with a sympathetic tone. For a heartbeat, the city and the Titan hum together against the lance's hunger. Quietus stutters. The Basilica lunges. They meet like myths do when they are tired of being told. Abruptly, with a crunch that dislodges saints from niches, the Basilica's carapace guns argue theology in shells. Stark answers with shoulder batteries that he designed to be boring, reliable, dependable, ugly, because boring wins sieges. He drives the Aurora's right arm up into a gap under the Basilica's chin and fires the forearm's cutting torch, a line of white so sharp it steals color for a step. Plates run like wax. The Basilica headbutts. He sees stars that are not in the sky. Caravax slides Quietus, measured, into the gap between beats. The lance touches the Aurora's left shoulder and reminds the plate that it was ore, and the ore that it was dust. Armor goes. Frame screams. The left arm hangs by cable and prayer. Stark tastes metal that is not blood and cannot spare the analogy. He makes a choice that will be cited later in both praise and censure. He vents plasma not outward, but inward, through channels he reserved for emergency purge. Heat floods the torso like a baptism, a degree short of murder. The blackstone ring drinks hurt. The spinal array hums a fourth tone that is not sanctioned because no one thought to sanction it yet. The Basilica's knee locks. Quietus howls. The Aurora's left arm tears clean off and falls down the steps, end over end, like a dropped standard. He finishes with one arm and a promise. He pivots the torso and drives the right fist, clenched, torch dead, plate scorched, into the Basilica's temple. Something theological and mechanical gives. The massive engine lists, finds no liturgy strong enough to keep standing, and collapses sideways into a pile of ruined pageantry. Caravax takes it personally across the Vox. You are an insult to stone, he says. You make fences in the desert. Stark looks at him through smoke. You break things to feel holy, he says back. We're both tired. I have work. Caravax retreats again, not beaten forever, but forced into a cadence he did not choose. Warsmiths remember music. He will tune his revenge. The Medici rip melted seals and pull Stark out into air that tastes of copper and blessing smoke. He is ugly with radiation and triumph. The chaplain presses his brow with a coin that is rubbed thin on too many foreheads. You kept the steps, he says. We will argue about the purge. They do. The audit is the hardest room he enters all week. Vorn's tone could cut bread. Unauthorized harmonic, she says. Self-inflicted vent, loss of limb, collateral. Minimized, yes, but at cost you were not empowered to pay. He does not argue the facts. He describes the minute the Basilica would have taken the spine, and the hour he denied that. He lays down telemetry like gospel. Raiden's jaw flexes. He made a call, she says. He will make others. We can fence his habit without clipping his hands. The fence becomes policy. They write it together because policy written alone tips towards sin. Mercy protocols, stamped and sworn. Triage hierarchy with faces in it. Evacuation triggers that bow to numbers but consult humans. null escort distances and durations, harmonic usage conditions with chaplain sign-off, plasma venting rules that will live on a plaque inside the Aurora's torso, like a remembered scald. Vorn signs last. "Breach this, and I sell you to a desert," she says. And he believes her, and thanks her for being believable. The autarch does not sit idle. He co-opts a subforge and prints icons with Stark's silhouette holding a ledger instead of a heart. He whispers to tech priests who love ratios too much. He offers a coil that inverts null, a device that makes a blank into a trumpet. They test it on a captive pariah, and the scream makes 3 of them vomit. Stark hears about it because he placed a blank in his cockpit and ate with her. She tells him with her eyes, while the room tries to become a simpler shape around her. He raids a warehouse not with the Aurora, but with a squad of sisters and 2 Navy Marines who grew up in alleys that looked like this warehouse. They find the coil. They find the diagrams done in his handwriting by a man who is not him. The Optimate tries to shape his anger into an algorithm. He shapes it into a warrant signed by Vorn and a bonfire whose smoke smells like burned smugness. The mirror finally takes a swing big enough to mean something. The Iron Autarch arrives during a dawn that struggles to be brave. He brings 6 engines that look like the Aurora if the Aurora had been designed by a man who refused to set a floor, and he coordinates them with a precision Stark finds obscene. He speaks over a channel that tastes like mint and coins. "Join," he says, not as plea, as correction. "I solved you. We can solve this place." They fight on the plain of St. Adrasta's shadows, 100 meters past the fence line Vorn drew with ink and threat. The Autarch's engines operate like a choir that forgot breath. Slick, endless, wrong. Stark stands in a triangle with 2 knights, whose banners show 3 dead moths between them. The sisters stand behind his cockpit and make the Autarch's idea stutter at the edges. Navy guns whisper from low orbit with the restraint of men who know a city is under their hands. The Autarch tries to hack the blanks with the coil he could not test. It flickers in their hands and dies like a lie trying to be a prayer. He tries to bait Stark into a line of best fit kill. Abandon the hospital to save the rail. Stark lays a corridor of magnetics that turns the rail into the hospital's roof long enough to steal time. The Autarch calculates faster, but loves nothing living. Stark loves this street. They trade limbs and doctrine. The Aurora becomes asymmetrical art. A right arm doing 2 jobs, legs lifting like vows, torso rotating into penalties. The Autarch finds an angle. He drives a spear into the Aurora's side that is not Quietus, but behaves like its jealous cousin. The blackstone ring complains in a tone like glass under heat. Stark pushes back with a move that is not in any manual, because he wrote the manual and left room for this. He kneels the Titan to make his silhouette smaller and throws the right arm not to destroy, but to grapple. He holds the Autarch the way a man holds a friend who is walking into traffic. The divine sign does not come as a beam. It comes as a silence that deepens until even calculation listens. The air around the Autarch warps toward a point behind Stark. Blanks adjust their stance without being told. Custodians on a wall a kilometer away lift spears as if in rehearsal. The throne's attention arrives like a yes withheld. The Autarch jerks as if a page was turned that had his name on it. He retracts with the disgust of a perfectionist who met a rule he cannot edit. "Throne-bound," he says again, not a slur this time, a diagnosis. "I will cut your leash." He withdraws into a seam of corrected air. He leaves projects and converts and a promise. Sorelium keeps standing by, refusing to do anything once. The steps are rebraced. The priests say new words at old machines. Raiden orders stockpiles to be refilled and writes letters to families whose surnames she pronounces properly on purpose. Vorn requisitions a relic that is not a relic yet. A fragment from Quietus's cracked join bound into a reliquary with black silk and warning sigils, to be used once and carefully, or never, and safely, depending on who wins the next argument. Stark rebuilds the Aurora's left arm with a priest's patience. He lets Magos Ispra oversee joints and etch lines. He welcomes a young engineer who says little and looks at him as if she knows when men decide to become myths. He eats with the sisters. He listens to the chaplain read a list of names as long as an aisle and says each response like he means it. He takes missions that are smaller and exactly as necessary. Escort a water convoy through a district the autarky calls obsolete. Clear a hab tunnel of siege residue that causes dreams to kill. Stand still for 3 hours while Navy cranes move a cathedral buttress back into place. The Titan's shoulders under weight intended for stone. He writes a note in his own rules. Patience is not optimization either. It is love with a time horizon. The galaxy, always listening for a symbol, starts to talk back. On a forge moon where the code of the Omnissiah has teeth, a dark mechanicum arch-heretic strings cogs onto gut and lays a plan. Aurora, it hisses, test-fitting his name to a curse. We will compose a counter-psalm in noise. It drafts a war engine whose reactor is a choir trapped in iron. It maps Cerelium and draws a skull over the steps. In the eye, Caravax holds Quietus under a cataract of hate-smithing and learns patience the way a sermon learns audience. He binds the lance to 3 oaths and a corpse, and each bond tightens a crack into a line. He will kneel on my stairs, he says, not making a vow, making a new kind of staircase. He sends letters written in shrapnel to 3 other warsmiths and invites them to a demonstration. On a craft world far and away, a farseer looks into a bowl of sand and regrets loving anything. She sees a red man in a cathedral machine holding a child with one arm and a city with the other. She whispers to a war host's bones that humans still produce difficult saints, and difficult saints ruin clean plans. Closer, inside Cerelium, the autarky shrinks without dying. They become a rumor that the hungry find, a diagram that appears in latrines and barracks and looks almost persuasive. Vorn sends kill teams when the rumor grows fangs. Stark sends food when the rumor grows out of hunger. The chaplain walks unarmed into places where men love graphs too much and leaves with 3 fewer enemies, and a 4th who will argue better next time. They raise a banner in the Manufactorum quarter that is not a flag, but a housekeeping chart. Sectors to seal, sectors to feed, sectors to teach. The chart bears the Aquila inside a circle of light, and children trace the lines with fingers that will one day etch seals. Mercy when possible, it says. Justice when necessary. Audit always. Local humor adds, eat lunch. When the next summons comes, it is not a scream. It is a bell with a plea folded inside. A colony world named Harrow Span has found its sky cracking the way Cerelium's did, but its governor is a farmer with an army's worth of prayer and no guns. The Navy can send 1 cruiser. The Mechanicus can spare a half-maniple of cataphrons and none of their confidence. Vorn can send an Inquisitorial letter that makes room where there wasn't. Raiden can offer 3 words that she hates to say and loves to mean. Go. Come back. Stark goes. He steps the Aurora onto a drop cradle and allows himself one look back at the steps where the left arm fell, and a girl with charcoal made a promise. He carries that promise like iron and light. The Stormbird closes. The world drops away. The fence follows him because it is inside his plates now, sewn there with law and kindness and self-disgust. Transit is as ugly as always. He hates it because he loves control. The Blackstone ring hums to itself like a cat telling its own story. Cantor runs checklists until checklists are a lullaby. The sisters stand behind him and let their breathing make a shape in the air. The chaplain mutters quiet math. The custodian taps a spear butt twice and calls the tap discipline. Harrow Span appears as a flat coin of fields and rivers and 4 towns that think they are cities, until they meet a man who walked on Cerelium. The breach ripples like silk over a candle. A shadow like a cathedral turned inside out presses its face against the seam. and sniffs with the hunger of something that learned to hunger from an idea rather than a stomach. Knew him, the Magos on a minor channel says absent-mindedly. Old enemy, the ground runs to meet him. He writes feet into fields with care. He sees people learning to stare up. He remembers Sorelium's first minute and speaks into the fear with a voice that learned liturgy the hard way. Stay inside. Stay in fives. Do not make choices alone. He becomes local reluctantly. He learns the names of 3 streets and a baker. He moves like a knife meant to cut the right string. It is easier this time and harder. Easier because he has policy and fence and friends who breathe silence and a leash he tied himself. Harder because the enemy also learned. The Optimates font is cleaner. The Autarch's engines do not arrive, but their diagrams do. Slipped under doors like poison plates. Caravax's shadow falls at noon like a promise of evening. He sets the Aurora's feet down outside a hospital with a roof that knows rain better than shellfire. He kneels, not to the building, to the act of protecting it. He routes a convoy under the Titan's belly like children under a table. He fires a patterned absence into a stalk of shadow that thought it was unshootable. He writes mercy with heat and nights in a hangar and arguments under thin lamps. He trims himself against the fence and bleeds smarter. He will bleed again. He will win, and not enough. He will draw the Autarch's hate until it condenses into a bolt. He will stand the Aurora in front of a thing that makes wars enter the mouth of a word. He will measure success by the number of names on the chaplain's list that never get written. He will be audited every time, because fences that do not test are decorations. News travels slower than rumor and faster than prayer. On Sorelium, a child draws an improved Aurora with 2 arms and a cleaner symbol. In the eye, Caravax fits Quietus into a harness that hums optimism in a language that has no word for mercy. In the forge, a machine heart warms up. The dark Mechanicum's choir takes a breath, and a war psalm in noise finds its first note. Across 1,000 ships' prows, men who do not like each other agree on an emblem for a season. The double-headed eagle around a circle of light appears on bulkheads and bread lines. Sometimes it is scratched by a bored guardsman on a lasgun stock. Sometimes it is painted by a sister on a child's wall, with a smile she doesn't let anyone see. Sometimes it is stamped by an inquisitor on a writ that will save a man or hang him, and the choice will hurt either way. He walks the Titan onto another field. He sets his floor. He draws his ceiling. He keeps the fence at his edges. He says the quiet part out loud to Cantor and the sisters, and sometimes to the sky. I am not the point. The living are the point. He lifts the reactor window until it catches a weak sun and makes that sun bolder. The galaxy notices. It always does when symbols become habits. A rogue trader hangs a charm with the new Aquila over a bar that sees too many goodbyes and one homecoming. A PDF sergeant tells a recruit to check the AURORA clause before firing into a crowd. An Eldar ranger shakes his head and saves a human child he could have ignored because the future got marginally less ugly when one man learned to like fences. A demonette whispers Stark's name to a mirror and bites it until blood oils the glass. Caravax tells his Warsmiths a story about a builder who thinks the desert can be tamed. They laugh wrong. He does not laugh. He orders Quietus carried by 12 men who hate each other, because hate is a chain that can be pulled. He picks a world from a list with the tip of Quietus and draws a line under it that will interest Stark. The Optimate discovers boredom. It moves to new hosts. It finds new fonts. It hates children's chalk drawings more than it hates laws. And this is useful intelligence. The Iron Autarch builds a cathedral where a factory used to be, and invites meat to pray before a hologram of a man who will never sweat again. He writes a schedule for choking a planet in curves that do not look like choking until watched too long. He saves nothing, because saving is not his verb. And Stark, in a cockpit with no personality and 3 humans breathing frost behind him, hears a bell that sounds like work starting. He looks at a world he does not own. He thinks of a kitchen he will not see soon. He calibrates mercy with a ruler he stole from his worst day. He addresses himself to the act. The aurora takes a step. The ground says yes. The sky thinks about it and prepares to be convinced. The symbol on his chest is not a prophecy. It is a reminder that a man can use a god's empire to draw a human circle and enforce the rule that nothing living falls out of it without protest. He moves because stalling kills. He moves because fences only mean anything when you put your body on them. He moves, and the last image is not a last image, only a frame in a work that keeps choosing itself. A circle of light inside an eagle, etched on armor, smeared on brick, traced in ash by a child who just learned a new shape for not giving up.